The daughter of Rishaparva, the man Devayani's father worked for, was also her friend. Her name was Sharmista. One fine day, Devayani, accompanied by Sharmista and many of the female companions, go to the beautiful woods. While there, they see a lake and decide that it would be refreshing to have a dip in it. So they all strip and get into the water. They spend a good time there, they play and have a great time, and when they are done, they come out of the lake and find that the clothes that they had neatly piled up by the lake was blown by the wind and was now all in disarray. Quickly, the girls just grab onto the clothes that they could find. Sharmista also picks up the clothes nearest to her. No big deal, right? Except it was a big deal. What Sharmista didn't know was that she had picked up clothes that belonged to Devayani. And Devayani was furious. Why? It's complicated. So Sharmista was the daughter of a king, a person who held an important role in society. But he was an asura. Devayani's father was a Brahmana, a powerful one at that, and that placed him, and by extension Devayani, in the topmost rung of the social ladder. But Devayani's father worked for Sharmista's father. They were interdependent, as was society in those days. Devayani, it seemed, liked to think that she was superior to Sharmista, because when she realized that Sharmista was wearing her clothes, she was furious. She went into a rage. "How dare you, someone who is inferior to me, wear my clothes?" she says. Now Sharmista was not about to take the insult lying down. She says, "Well, your father works for my father and does what mine tells him to do. He bows in front of my father with his hands outstretched in front of him to be asking to be paid, just like someone would ask for alms. How are you superior to me? I don't even consider you my equal," she says. Devayani wasn't expecting for Sharmista to attack her back, so she's shocked. She's still clutching on to the clothes that were in Sharmista's hands. Sharmista is angry too, so she pushes Devayani. Unfortunately for Devayani, there was a well behind her. She trips and falls into the well. And Sharmista just walks away. She does not glance back and goes on her way.
He just leaves her to die?
Yes, but Devayani isn't dead. You see, the well is empty, but with no one to help her out and no way for her to get out of there on her own, she was stuck in it well and good. Devayani hopes and prays for someone to come by and rescue her, and her prayers are answered when a young man comes there looking for water. Now, this young man was actually King Yayati, but Devayani doesn't know about that fact in this interaction. Yayati was in the woods hunting, he was thirsty, and he was looking for water. But instead of water, he finds a well-dressed, beautiful young woman. Devayani introduces herself, and then she asks him to rescue her. She extends out her right hand, which the man grasps and pulls her out of the well. Devayani thanks him. He says goodbye and goes on his way. Devayani walks back home, and somewhere along the way she finds her friend Gurnika. Quickly she tells Gurnika what happened and tells Gurnika to go to her father and report to him everything that happened and tell him that Devayani would not step into Rishaparva's city. Shukracharya could not believe his ears when he heard of what happened to his cherished daughter. Quickly, he rushes to where Devayani was and tries to console her. This must be the result of some past bad deeds of yours. It's all over now, he says. But Devayani wasn't in the mood to be pacified. She says that she doesn't care if it was a result of some bad deed of her past, but she could not tolerate this kind of treatment from someone who was supposedly her friend. Are you really someone who begs and asks favors from Rishaparva? She asks. No, her father says vehemently. He says that what he does is important and essential. Sharmista's words had rubbed Shukra the wrong way too, but he wants to maintain the peace. He wished Devayani would act in a more calm and logical manner. He considered anger as a show of weakness. Do not let your pride and anger rule you. Forgive your friend, he urges Devayani. Devayani agrees with her father's wisdom, but she thinks that what Sharmista did was not something you would want to forgive. In fact, she says that she doesn't even want to live in the same space as Sharmista and her people. I cannot live in Rishaparva's city any longer. I refuse to live amongst them, she declares. It's not like Shukra was not incensed with Sharmista and Rishaparva. He was, because first it was the attack on Kacha, and now this. The more Shukra spoke to his daughters, the more he started to see things from her point of view. Finally, he decides to confront Rishaparva. He goes to Rishaparva and he says, I have had enough of you and your antics. I refuse to continue living in your court. Rishaparva panics. His military success depended heavily on Shukracharya's skills. He simply could not afford to lose Shukracharya. He scrambles to appease him. He begs for forgiveness and for an opportunity to make things right. Shukracharya tells him that the person who was wronged was his daughter, and so the matter of forgiveness lay with her. Rishaparva does as Shukracharya suggests. He goes to Devayani and begs for her forgiveness. Now, this is huge. This is a big win for Devayani. Remember, Rishaparva is a king and he was begging for her forgiveness. But that was not enough for Devayani. She was ready to forgive, but her forgiveness would come with a price, a steep price. Devayani makes her demands clear. Sharmista, along with 1,000 of her female companions, will be my slave, and they will accompany me even after I'm married. There was nothing Rishaparva could do about this situation. His people could not afford to lose someone with Shukracharya's skills, and he was ready to sacrifice his daughter for their cause. And so he simply says, as you please, and sends for a servant to bring Sharmista. Sharmista feels responsible for the whole debacle. Her actions had resulted in consequences for her dear father and their people, and so she was ready to do whatever Devayani wished. To right the wrong Sharmista did to Devayani by insulting her, pushing her into the well, and almost killing her, Sharmista begs Devayani's forgiveness. She tells her that she accepts that she is inferior to her and will prove it by being her slave for the rest of her life. Devayani finally accepts Sharmista's apology, but not before a lot of groveling by Sharmista. However, she finally agrees to stay in Rishaparva city, and Shukra continues to work in Rishaparva's court.